it's not unrealistic to look at science fiction film and think that maybe some of that is possible and maybe it's not that far away. It's almost like a revelation every time you go to see something like that, because so much of it does happen. There have been things in films in the past and it wasn't fiction. These things are coming and I find that really, really exciting. I'm not particularly interested in Martians and that, strange aliens, although it has its moments, but it's my big interest for a while when I started to write music seriously was really about the development of technology and how that was going to affect us. And I wrote an album called Replicas in '79, which was very loosely about what I thought London might become in 50 to 100 years, because of computers and violence and ways that we had, or ways that there might be to deal with that kind of thing. I go back to Gerry Anderson and Fireball XR5, Supercar. I even remember Supercar. Jesus, that does show you how old I am. But Fireball XR5 and Stingray and all these. Fireball XR5 was my favourite. It was such a cool thing. But all those kiddie programs, when I was very, very little. My big fascination with Fireball XR5 wasn't the adventures they had. It was the spaceship. It's the coolest looking thing, and I was fascinated by that. The power of them and the beauty of them and the speed of them. That's even with things like Star Trek. It was my favourite bit in Star Trek is when you see the spaceship. The stories, I'm all right with that, but I just like looking at the spaceship and all the stuff it does. But most of the influence, I suppose, that I've got from sci-fi in general, but from films in particular, hasn't been so much musical. Lyrically, some of it, but a lot of it has been the imagery of it. I did an album called Warriors, I think in 83, 84, something like that, and just went for the whole Mad Max look. And the whole band did. We all took our favourite character and then went off and had all this stuff made and then toured it. And we toured with a set which had the look of skyscrapers that had been destroyed and bits were missing and the keyboard players were up in the air in these wasted looking old tenement buildings and there was air conditioning units and the drummer was in the middle of that doing his thing. It was great actually, it looked really good. Yeah, but that was a direct borrow from Mad Max. But for me, Blade Runner goes back to the book. I read the book, Durangel's Dream of Electric Sheep, when I was really young, at 12 I think, 11 or 12 when I read it. And I got loads of things from that. I wrote a song called I Dream of Wires in 1980, which is directly taken from the book, and many other things if I care to remember. Shameful actually. I often say that influence, when used wisely, should be a series of little sparks that just ignite your own ideas. Sometimes it's been a bit more than that, if I'm really truthful. I Dream of Wires is one of them. That was taken very much from the opening pages of the Androids book. But so my interest in it started back there with the book, and when I heard they were making the film, I had this bit. It's my favourite book, up until I got into Tolkien, but I was very interested to see what the film would be like, and not disappointed at all. It's an absolute genius bit of film. That I loved it. When you read the books, you picture what that character would be like, and Rutger Hauer was even more. I thought he was amazing.
Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it?
I thought his character was amazing, and he looks...
That's what it is to be a slave.
Looked just brilliant, The speech is so brilliant. I read recently that Rutger Hauer actually ad-libbed pretty much most of that. He just went off on his own, and it's amazing, isn't it? One of my, anyway, I'm not a film critic, but one of my favourite bits of film ever. I absolutely love that scene, and it's really emotional for me.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
And it just got me thinking. It got me thinking about my own grandparents, strangely enough, and the fact that they have all of these memories and all this experience, and it's just gone, when they died. And I have seen wonders. I tried to write something which was relevant to my own family and people dying and the memories and those experiences being lost. And it seemed such a sad thing. And so I wrote the song and I called it Time to Die because it was inspired by the Rutger Hauer speech in Blade Runner. To me, going to see a science fiction film is like having a peek into what tomorrow might be bringing. I think if you're fascinated about what's coming, what the future may bring, it gives you, it's almost like slightly opening the door and you can just look in and wonder, is that what's coming? And so it's really exciting and it kind of opens your mind to, is that possible? Could that happen?